So, for example, my mom goes to yoga class once a week, and she's even asked me, should I go? I says, yeah, you just go for exercise. She's 84 years old. But I've also met people who've been involved in yoga as a kind of meditation, which she does not do. A kind of meditation for them to gain power and insight, sometimes over others or for themselves. And that it can be a doorway. And if it's used for that purpose, then it's dangerous. Sure.
Father, I have sort of an expertise in the field of demonology through studies in Rome and so on and so forth. But one thing that puzzles me the most about this, and I'm wondering if you have an insight into it, is the reaction, according to, everything we know, these are fallen angels and therefore extremely intelligent creatures, much more intelligent than we are, right? Correct. Yet, in every case of major possession, they don't seem to be intelligent. They seem to be mad. Almost like a Hannibal Lecter type of a thing. Is it, and this is the question, is it the fact that they know that they are damned and cannot love that it does drive them mad? Are they insane? Because it's all their actions seem to indicate a kind of insanity. And yet they're extremely intelligent and powerful. So that's the question.
I can't personally comment on the insanity piece. I can, I think, say, like what you're, in a sense, already saying, that they already know that they've been defeated. They already have a kind of clarity that we don't have. And because they chose to exercise a kind of free will that is different than our own, they already know what their destiny is. So, but that's why I said, I find them sort of between two poles, a raging pole and a fear pole. Because sometimes I've encountered demons that are incredibly afraid, and other times I've encountered demons that are incredibly raging. And I think it's for the reason that you so state, because of the fact that they know their outcome, and yet chose to go against the will of God. The insanity piece I really couldn't comment on. Maybe somebody who's had more experience than me could. Yes, please.
Oh, yes, my question is just in relation to your own experiences. Like throughout your journey, like in what you do as an exorcist, did you experience anything that tried to prevent you from doing what you should have been doing? And also, that's like in your book, you mentioned something about you had this new awareness of the evil. It's manifest presence in a new way, not from like it used to be from before, but you had like this new. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I just asked.
Well, when I had never experienced anyone who had a diabolical attachment until I was in Rome, working with Father Carmen. I never had encountered people who had been involved in the occult, or if they had never shared that with me, even in confession. So when I worked with Father Carmen and would observe exorcisms for 3 days a week, what I would do, I'd go home and I would journal. And so I could keep these things fresh in my mind. What did I see today that I hadn't seen yesterday? And how did he respond today in ways that I hadn't seen him respond before? How he used his stole, how he blessed with holy water, how he called the demon, how he prayed the prayers. What else did he do during the ritual of exorcism besides simply praying the prayers? So all of those things and much more, I would go home and write about it, and then every few weeks he and I would sit down with a translator, who was an Italian who spoke very good English. Because I could speak common stuff like, how's your day, and let's go to lunch, and like, where's the bus, and things like that, but I couldn't speak the technical Italian language about this topic. So when I would sit down and every few weeks, and I would just pepper questions at him. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? What's that reaction from? And that's how I learned to do what I did. So the question about did I get impeded? I think initially, I mean, I was 3 days away from having to go to leave Rome to Salamanca, Spain, to study Spanish. Not that I didn't want to do that, but every door I opened, it was not easy to find an exorcist. They all said no. And so it was very hard to find Carmen. And initially, he did not want to take me on as an apprentice. He told me so. And so he finally said, okay, come. So I showed him the letter from the bishop, who was in Italian. He looked at me, he read the letter, he looked at me, and he finally said, okay, come tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So it wasn't easy finding him, and it also wasn't easy to convince him to take me as an apprentice. And then the other question you ask, having to do with the experiences, I had never really been involved in that realm at all. And we, quite honestly, in the seminary, we were not taught any of this stuff. And I'm trying to get that changed now, not by myself, but I just spoke at the seminary about a month ago to the seminarians, and we're now, and the book was sent, by my suggestion, by Doubleday, the publishing company, to every rector of every major seminary in the United States, and every bishop in the United States, with a letter from me, as to why we should have this as part of the program of cruciformation. Because a lot of times guys just priests don't have a language. I didn't either. I mean, this is stuff I've learned all in the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm just trying to share now what I've learned in the hope that we'll regain a part of our tradition that is, I think, a very important one, and not to be deluded into thinking that evil is harmless and that we don't participate in it. We do.
Oh, well, it kind of leads to my other question about, which you said that exorcism is like a last resort, like they would have to go through all these other things before then. So how does it lead to somebody being exorcised, and if someone could possibly have a sense that somebody might, be, possessed in a certain way or obsessed in a certain way?
Yes. Well, how that happens, and this is in the foreword of the book, in the ritual book. The exorcist has to be absolutely certain that an exorcism is the right decision to undertake, after all other avenues have been exhausted. So it doesn't mean we tried for years using deliverance. It means we try deliverance for a time, and when it's really clear that that's not going to work either, then we go to an exorcism. But it has to be with certitude that that's the right thing to do.
Like, how would they know about it? Like, how would they know that this person, somebody has to mention something to somebody or to, the parish or something?
I don't quite understand your question.
Like, how does it lead to, a priest coming over and actually exorcising somebody?
Okay, I understand the question. The normal process is really one of 3 ways. Either the person contacts their parish priest, who then can either put them in touch with me, or they can go to the bishop directly, or they can call me themselves. So, I mean, I'm pretty accessible. So they don't have to immediately go through the bishop. Because the vast majority of people who come to me don't have issues of the diabolical. But many times they think they do. And so my role is not to convince them they don't. My role is to listen to what they have to say, and then involve other experts as well, to see whether or not this might be diabolical. And then, of course, if you see manifestations in front of you, you have to take those seriously. So for someone to get to me is actually pretty easy.
Would it be okay for me, for example, to mention to, a priest that, that this person, is in all the signs, of somebody being...
Sure. If you know somebody out of concern, you can go to your parish priest and talk to him about it. Absolutely.
Hello, Father.
Good evening, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Sure.
How dangerous is a person seen a curandera bringing candles, same candles and incense to burn. How dangerous would you say that is?
I think it's dangerous. I'll tell you why. Because a curandero, for those of you who are not Hispanic, a curandero is a Mexican witch doctor. Now, sometimes the curandero will claim that they practice white magic versus black magic. Now, I have to be completely honest with you. I don't know what that specifically means, except that it's in the realm of the spirit world, and when you dabble in the spirit world, you don't know what door you're opening. So, to be involved in any kind of healer or someone who prescribes to be a healer, I would say stay away from them all. Just as a rule. Because you don't know what that person, what power that person may have, or where that person, what that person may have dabbled in themselves. And it's really in the realm of idolatry. So I would say for all those reasons I'd stay away from it because it's dangerous.
If you know someone that has done this, and also has a history of possibly, supernatural occurrences, you have occurrences. What type of things would you, besides maybe blessing the house, holy water, deliverance prayers, what are the things you think would be effective to help this person or the family?
Well, something I haven't touched on, which I'm glad that it gives me a chance to do so. The sacrament of reconciliation is more powerful than an exorcism. And I tell that to all the groups I speak in front of. And it's the most neglected of all the 7 sacraments. So I would say, have them go back and engage in a regular regimen of going to confession. At least monthly. If they need to do more than monthly, but at least monthly. And Eucharist every week. Those are part of our normal regimen for Catholics, the sacraments. So I would say deliverance prayer, sure, but the sacrament of reconciliation is big. And regular reception of the Eucharist is also big.
If in this family, some of the members lost their faith and they stopped going to Mass, stopped going to confession, what type of things would you recommend then? Deliverance prayers?
Well, sure, but I think ideally they need to go back to the sacrament.
So you just need to pray. Is there any prayers that you would recommend?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you could probably go to the local bookstore right next door here and find books of prayers.
Yes.
Sure, and they could pray spontaneous prayers themselves, but if they want to pray more formal prayer, I'm sure there are books available.
Well, I'm thinking of, for example, me praying those prayers for this person.
You could. I don't know how helpful. I mean, anytime anyone prays with or for another person, that can't be anything but good.
Thank you, Father.
Good evening, Father.
Good evening to you.
My question is, you mentioned you were around about 80 exorcisms. How do you know that an exorcism was complete? Based on the movie, they say that it turns brighter, there's a different sense of smell, and a different ambiance in the house. I mean,
It's a movie.
I know, but how do you know? If you say you have to do
An exorcism is complete, and it's a matter of judgment. I used to ask this at Carmen, how do you know when this is over? He says, when the manifestations stop. And so when the manifestations stop, I don't stop. Because demons are devious. Demons enter through the senses. They enter through the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears. Now, in the movie, and also in the book, one thing that I used to talk to Matt about, when I worked in the funeral business, and I would be setting, the term is setting the facial features. When a person dies, their eyes don't always close, and their mouth doesn't always stay closed. It is part of just their normal reaction of a corpse. The difference between a person and a corpse is that the soul is missing. When I used to look into the eyes of a corpse, when I put the little eye caps, which are in the movie, which I was amazed they went to great lengths to do what they did. You put the eye caps under the eyeballs.